Are content creators to blame for the recent Destiny disaster? That is the question that's being posed. The community is being pitted against each other. On one side, creators. On the other side, the community, players. A war has begun. And interesting enough, I really think that we should both be united in our common enemy, or well, I guess they're not our enemy, but Bungie, right? Like they're the ones really messing up here. Interesting enough, a lot of people blame Saltagrepo for Destiny 2 being ruined or in a bad state, or that he's bad for the game, etc. But he actually says right here in a statement, I've personally never been invited to summits or stuff like that, but the vast majority of my feedback online feels ignored, and the game is moving pretty much in the opposite direction I'd like it to. Blaming creators is not it. So, even though people like to attribute him as the reason why Divinity got nerfed, which is still so funny to me. If you don't know, he tweeted out saying that Divinity should get nerfed, and then like a week or two later, it did get nerfed. Like Bungie was already working on it, and the timing was just really funny. And so everyone at that point thought that Bungie just listens to whatever he says, but he's not even getting invited to the summits. If you don't know what the summit is, it's where Bungie invites various different content creators and influencers and community members. You could literally just be someone that's just on Twitter and get invited. It's not exclusive to just content creators, but they invite them into a summit. So recently, it's been more virtual summits, but previously it was like in the physical location in Bungie Studios. And they, ask you questions and present to you the future of Destiny as they are working on it. And in there, you're allowed to give your feedback. But a lot of content creators have been complaining about these summits because, well, it's kind of like you're invited and you do give your feedback, but it's not like that stuff is necessarily implemented. I mean, they can't just go off the feedback of, one person, of course, or even a group of people, even if they are the most subscribed or followed content creators, right? They have to, make their decisions as a part of like an amalgamation of various different sources. So the content creators have some pull, the community has the majority of the pull, and the poll is based off of feedback from the Bungie forums, Twitter, Reddit, and various other social media platforms, right? And those in tandem with Bungie's leadership and their vision for the game creates the sort of direction that Destiny 2 heads. And so now that Destiny 2 is heading in a bad direction, right? Like it's at least in a steep decline, a lot of people are trying to point fingers at who's to blame here. And we've gotten this bizarre new community sentiment that people are pointing the finger at the community themselves. And we saw this recently in Bife's post, which was kind of a surprise. I didn't expect this for Bife to kind of point fingers at the community and be like, some of you guys are too toxic, right? We'll pull that up so we're not mischaracterizing the situation. Got Bife here, and you guys think he says, much as I'll happily flog the dead horse of executive failure, some failure also comes from bad actors or loud voices here on social media. So basically, he's attributing at least a portion of the decline or of the direction of Destiny 2 to these bad actors or loud voices, right? Saying that, it's not all on Bungie's responsibility to develop the game and make the game good. It's about you, and the community is the problem, right? And this is a very divisive business. Previously, when we've had issues with Destiny 2, we've pretty much been united in our front to, roast Bungie and, point the fingers at them and at the systems that need to be fixed in the game. But now we're kind of entering this weird new territory where, the community is pointing to content creators saying, you guys are the problem, and the things you do and say and the way you influence the game is frustrating. People are, I'll give you a good example. People say like, oh, we don't need contest raids. We don't need world's first races. That's for the 1%. It does nothing. There's a lot of wasted developmental effort. This is a community opinion that's thrown around a lot. Bungie makes these contest raids for raiders or for content creators, right? So that's an opinion that's been thrown around. I've seen that quite a bit bounce around, which is not entirely true. Obviously, these races were created before there was any content creators. There was literally raid races happening Vault of Glass when the game launched, and they've just sort of acknowledged its existence and built it up because it is a cool spectacle to watch. It's cool to see who solves the raid world's first. And I don't think that the world's first races are just exclusive to content creators. Obviously, anyone in the world can compete in them. The majority of people competing in them are not content creators. And it's always really cool to see someone that's completely unknown get the world's first, because now their name is forever immortalized as a legend, right? And so community players, community Destiny 2 players pointing the finger at content creators now pointing the finger back at the community saying it's you. You know, it's like the Spider-Man meme where we're pointing at each other. But the reality is that we should fixate on the issues inside the game. If the game is doing well, the community is not quiet, but the community will play and focus on all the cool things there are to do in Destiny 2. It's when the game doesn't do well that you see the community express their frustrations. And obviously, some people are much more articulate and they give, constructive feedback, and others may just be like, game bad, very crayon eating Titan type of feedback. Game bad, me no play, you know? And or even worse, right? Like calling people names and going over the top. For the most part, I think that even the bad feedback or the non-constructive feedback has power to it, and it has a message behind it. And it's important that we don't necessarily discredit it, but we understand where it's coming from. A lot of people are just really frustrated at the game right now, you know? A lot of people are just really frustrated at the game. And I've never seen, we had Destiny 2 year one. We've had low points at various times. And we've always, like a good example is sunsetting. We were recently talking about this topic of sunsetting. We all unanimously said, Bungie, this was a really bad idea, sunsetting, right? Now imagine a world where the community, like community is blaming the content creators for sunsetting, or the content creators are blaming the community for sunsetting or something. It's like, that's not, like, it was Bungie's decision. You know what I'm saying? They made the decisions. They did the things that led us to this point. The community's reaction to what Bungie does is consequential. It does not really matter to the situation really at all. A good example is if all the content creators left and stopped playing, the game would still go on and do probably just fine. Plenty of people play the game. The majority of people playing are not content creators, So content creators' opinions or value is maybe conflated by the perception of the community because they get invited to these summits and they get invited to, special content releases and things like that. But I think that there's a bit of a misunderstanding of how powerful content creators are in the larger scheme of things. You know what I'm saying? The majority of people playing probably don't give two shits about Salt Grepo or Dado or anyone quitting the game. They're just going to play the game if they like it, and if they don't, they'll stop playing, But there is some influence that's had, of course. There is some degree of, influence happening there, but I think it's all the content creators leaving, and the discourse around that is a byproduct of Destiny just being bad. And we should all stop trying to attack each other. We're distracting ourselves from the bigger issues here, and we should try to focus on the game and what Bungie needs to do, because blaming each other doesn't do anything. You're not going to change anyone's opinion too. If you think that it's my fault or it's the streamer's fault that the game is bad, right? Like if you're in this like community blaming thing where like this guy is blaming content creators, or like Bife is like blaming, I don't even know exactly who he's blaming here, but whoever Bife is blaming, right? Other people instead of focusing on Bungie, you're not going to change anyone's opinion. Like saying this does nothing. Those people will still continue to do what they do. Like everyone has the freedom to express their frustrations and loud voices, and like they have the freedom of speech, right? They're going to say what they want to say. So all you're doing is just pouring gasoline on a fire, in my opinion, and I don't think Bife meant it to be so inflammatory by any means. I think he's just expressing his frustrations. I just don't think I don't think he articulated his opinion in a way that's actually productive. I think this is actually very detrimental, more so than I would expect from him. I think that we should very much focus on Bungie. We should not be roasting Salt Grepo for Destiny 2's problems. We should not be roasting the community for Destiny 2's problems. We should be roasting Bungie. All right. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think. And if you have a different opinion, you're more than welcome to sound off. Like I've said many times before. I encourage people to disagree with me. I enjoy when people disagree with me. It challenges my way of thinking and allows me to think differently. And I encourage it always in the comments. So I'll be reading your comments below.